The certitude exercise is what happens. It's a state of mind exercise because what we're really working on is managing your state of mind in a natural way and increasing capacity to manage the state of mind that you're in. Now I have you practicing the 4 primary emotions of our emotional gym: gratitude, love, peace, and joy. And I have the goal for you of getting you there instantly, of you getting you to those emotions instantly, having instant access to those emotions. So you don't have to say, yeah, I feel a little joy. Joy. So you can get there right away from exercising in a gym. So you have reflexive emotions. When we put together the experience of love, peace, gratitude, and joy, when you have those emotions over a period of time and you can access all of them instantly, the next step will be duration. This is the way we measure an emotion, drawing it out, the duration of the emotion. And then the last skill we'll teach you is intensifying that emotion. Intensifying that emotion is not as important as getting to it instantly, quickly, and being able to make it last at a low level. I'm interested in the chronic low levels of this emotion. Because when that happens, when you get that chronic low level of that emotion going, what that's going to produce, or what it's going to open the door for, is for you to be more able, easily, to experience certitude. Certitude is an important state of mind. We're going to call it an emotion. It's not an emotion. Certitude is going to be that state of mind. You're going to learn to draw a C in your hand because we're going to use your sensory systems as well. And to experience, to feel what certitude feels like for you, and to learn to feel certitude anytime you feel anxious, anytime you feel fearful, to use certitude anytime you're kind of in doubt, to be able to plug into this feeling of certitude. You know, you're talking to your boss and under your desk you're just drawing this C going certitude, certitude, and the ambient background of your feeling and of your state of mind is to be able to come to your boss or to your husband or wife or whoever with this sense of easy certitude that is the cumulative effect of putting all of these emotions, these 4 emotions, into action. And I'll show you that later. Now, when you're doing that, you are creating stronger neural pathways in your brain, or stronger traveling on those neural pathways in your brain, and you're increasing the parts of your brain, the veritable size of the parts of your brain that have to do with certitude. You are growing new neural structures or neural pathways. You are redesigning the neural pathways in your brain. Now, that is a very big idea. Neuroscientists themselves have fought this. A Nobel Prize winner fought the evidence of this for a long time before he finally gave in. Because what's been very popular about neuroscience and about the brain is a thing called localization. And localization means that this does this, this does this, this does this, this does this, this does another thing, and if you whack that part of the brain, or if you injure that part of the brain, you will never again have that capacity back again to be able to use. However, the problem with that idea existed even from the beginning of localization. I mean, these neuroscientists, these brain scientists were very proud of themselves that they had mapped the brain and could tell you this area does this and this area does this and this area, the basal ganglia absolutely manages anxiety and takes care of a good deal of fearful moodiness. They were very proud that they could do that. And giving up this idea of localization was an enormous thing. But what we learned, if you turn to page 2, is that the idea of localization of the brain is, while it's more sophisticated, not really altogether that much more sophisticated than phrenology. And phrenology is the picture that you have there. I picked out the jazziest phrenology picture that I could find. You just read some of the words on there and you're going to realize that I did. As a bit of humor and fun. This is for sale on eBay, by the way, if you want the original. This is an attempt at phrenology, where they want to tell you what are these different things that are going on in different parts of your brain. Localization is really a more sophisticated phrenology. Granted, it has a lot of science behind it, and granted, these parts of the brain, if you'll turn the next page of your outline, you will see a current diagram of the brain. And it looks very sophisticated. It is the object of science, but way back in the beginning, even when Luria in Russia began to study these different parts of the brain, Luria is the father of neuroscience. One of his best students, Elkanon Goldberg, was my professor at NYU. Goldberg studied under Luria in Russia, and then Elkanon Goldberg came here to the United States because he did not want to join or be a part of the Communist Party, and began teaching at New York University. And I had a wonderful opportunity of being with him for 2 years to study under one of the major neuroscientists in the world today. Goldberg's work is with the frontal lobes, the executive functions. And in fact, one of the books he's read, or he's written, is about just exactly about the frontal lobes. Now, with all of that said, the uncomfortable thing that was occurring, even when we began to know that there was localization, this part of the brain did this, Luria was able to do this in the war because there were so many head injuries that he could study what was going on with people who got shot here or hit there or injured here in the brain. But one of the things that was perplexing was that until you are about 16 to 18, the right hemisphere of your brain is the part of your brain that's almost exclusively engaged in learning a language. And yet they found babies who had suffered a hemispherendectomy. A hemispherendectomy means that their right hemisphere was totally gone. And even with their whole right hemisphere totally gone, these babies learned a language. They're interesting. What's going on here that they learned this language? What's also going on when we know later, that your right hemisphere is highly engaged in learning this language until you are 18, but if you don't learn a language or another language by the time you're 18 or 16 or maybe even earlier, learning a language is going to be a whole lot more difficult in adult life because you're using the whole brain is given over to the activity of learning the language. The brain is saying, look, you're not going to use this right hemisphere for learning a language anymore. The psychic energy of your right hemisphere is going to be used for something else. And what it's going to be used for is it's going to be a part of how you're hardwired for bliss. It's going to be a part of how you're hardwired for ecstasy, for wisdom, for getting the bigger picture, which is your task in the second half of life. I know you think, those of you who are over 50, that your short-term memory is going, and that's because of aging. That's not the truth. Your short-term memory is changing around exactly in the same way that language did, because after 50, you're supposed to become wise, to get the whole picture, to get the larger picture. That's why astronomers are the professionals who live the longest. They have the longest lifespan, because they're doing what we're supposed to be doing. They're looking at the universe, they're looking at the stars, they're looking at the bigger picture. And next is symphony conductors, looking at the overall symphony, the larger symphony, using that phenomenal right hemisphere that we have because it's changed its functionality. So we know that your brain changes its functionality, and that's what I'm here to challenge you to do and to get you to do with the clients that you work with. And that is to change the functionality of your brain to be a positive brain rather than a negative fight-flight brain that builds and creates disease.